3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Kentucky at Texas. Texas is trying to keep their hopes alive for headed to the SEC championship in their very first season in the SEC. The schedule has been somewhat forgiving considering their first year in the SEC. Obviously, have that lone blip on the radar, scab on the skin, if you will, from the loss to Georgia at home, and Kentucky has just been an absolute mess. Very inconsistent this season. We kind of talked about it before we got on air, Mason. It wasn't very long ago. Kentucky gave up over 300 yards rushing to Auburn. Right, didn't really have any interest in tackling anybody for Auburn that day, and then turn around and play very competitively with Tennessee the very next week. So Kentucky has been very inconsistent. They've beaten Ole Miss this year. They're one of the two teams in the country that has been able to beat Ole Miss this year. Held in there with Georgia. Now we kind of know more about what caused that with Georgia. Georgia's offense hasn't been nearly as good as what we thought they were at that point, but Kentucky has been a stingy team. We know that Kentucky has got the dudes on the defensive line. They've got some serious dudes right there on that D line, can cause a lot of issues for opposing offensive lines. I like a couple of guys in the secondary. The offense has been what's been a big issue for Kentucky. Moving the ball through the air, moving the ball in general has just been an issue. You can say that Kentucky kind of hit like some lucky explosive plays and that big win over Ole Miss. We kind of talked about that earlier today for some reason. But it's just been kind of a mess at the quarterback position. The offensive line, I think, has been a big complaint for Kentucky fans this season. Not up to par for Kentucky football. 20 and a half points, though, Mason. That is a lot. Texas is a 20 and a half point favorite here. And it is at home. So that probably spots you 3 or 4 points there. But my goodness, 20 and a half is huge. And the over under is only 47. So not only is Vegas predicting Texas to pummel Kentucky by 3 touchdowns, but they're saying that the total score for the game is not going to go over 47. That is interesting stuff there. That is called threading the needle, ladies and gentlemen. And it would be very impressive if Vegas could do that. We'll see what we bet on this game on Thursday, but what are your thoughts going into this one, Mason? We've talked about Texas a pretty good bit today. Some of the strengths and weaknesses of that team. I'm interested to see how this offense responds to Kentucky and that defense. I'm kind of the belief that I don't think this offensive line for Texas is quite as good as what we thought they were going to be. I'm not saying they're bad, but coming out of the Big 12 last year, coming over to the SEC, we've seen some situations where I didn't feel like the offensive line was nearly as good as what we thought they were going to be this year. The run game hasn't been very good. We know that due to injuries and things. Texas is kind of starting to get some guys back, but lost C.J. Baxter, and the defense has been really good. What are your thoughts here? What does Kentucky need to do to be able to compete in this football game?
Well, they need to score more than 20 points. They haven't done that since they played Ohio on September 21st. This isn't a good offense. Well, outside of Murray State, let me back that up. So, haven't done that in conference at all this year. This is what they've scored in conference. 6, 12, 20. They won that game, beat Ole Miss. I don't know how. Lost to Vanderbilt with 13 points, lost to Florida with 20, lost to Auburn with 10, lost to Tennessee with 18. How they got 18 points on Tennessee, I don't even know. That's actually kind of impressive. But the defense has not been bad. They're holding teams under 30 for the most part. This offense is just not what we expected it to be with Brock Vandagriff coming over. They are constantly flipping from one quarterback to another. They have no idea what to do on the offensive side of the football. So to me, if Kentucky is going to win, it's going to look really similar to what we saw against Ole Miss. Kentucky has to sustain drives, kick field goals, or get points somehow, some way, get points on just about every single drive, slow down the game, right? Allow Texas's offense to kind of play into what you're trying to do, get some 3 and outs, force some turnovers, and Kentucky wins this game if they can keep it, if they can keep the total under like 40 points, right? That's how Kentucky could win. I mean, I think that they're going to need 2 or 3 turnovers. I don't see the shot plays happening, man. Against Ole Miss, there was potential there because Ole Miss has been giving up some plays over the top of their defense. Texas doesn't. Texas, the strength of the entire Texas team is on the back end of their defense. So if Kentucky's gonna go for those lucky plays down the back end of the defense, I just don't think it's going to be there. I got Texas winning this one. I don't think it's going to be close. I really saw in the Florida game, after Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt, it seems like they've just completely quit. In the Florida game, this defense gave up 48 points to Florida, which is a bad offense. I don't think Texas's offense is very good either, but I think they're good enough to beat Kentucky. Give me Texas in this one at home too. It's a 3:30 game, which I like Texas in that time slot as opposed to 12 o'clock, which would be 11 o'clock Central Time. So yeah. So give me Texas in this one. I don't know if they cover 20.5. That seems like a ton of points. We'll see if this gets up above 21. I might be putting some money on that, on Kentucky to cover that. But make no doubt about it, this is a really bad Kentucky offense. I could see them also not putting up any points in this game because Texas's defense is pretty stingy. It seems like when Kentucky is able to methodically go down and score, it takes a couple of chunk plays for Kentucky to do it, a 30-yard pass or something like that. And I just don't see it happening against this Texas secondary. So I don't know as far as the spread goes. I could see it going either way, but I like Texas in this one pretty big.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, this is obviously a mismatch, and that's why we're seeing a 3-point or 3 touchdown spread here. Texas is a defensive-led football team this year, and so their defense is going to need to show up here. I think they're not going to have any issue doing that. I think Kentucky does have a little bit of an advantage being able to run the football up the middle, but you can't do that all game. You're not going to be able to. I mean, you can't do that every single play. You're going to have some type of curveball, some type of changeup, and Kentucky just hasn't had it. Now, a couple Saturdays this year, they have had it. So is this one of those weekends? I don't think so. It seems to me like Kentucky's given up. But I'm not rushing to bet on this one. We'll have to see where the numbers go. Tune in later this week and see if we got any plays on this one. Y'all let us know in the comment section what you think the outcome of this one will be.